Welcome everybody to another 4K limited edition review. I know we've had a lot lately, but for some reason August has been the busy month for that. And today we take a look at 1997's Event Horizon, which is put in this really well snazzy hard box. And this is directed by Paul W.S. Anderson, who also before this did Shopping, which is a really rather decent indie film with Jude Law in the lead role. He also did the first Resident Evil film, and then he did the 3 worst sequels from that series, Afterlife, Retribution, I think it was called, in the last chapter. Far worse than the second and third films, for instance. And he also did Death Race, which was a decent action racing kind of film, and then also Pompeii, which I actually really rather enjoyed, although a lot of people hated that. And then, this is a science fiction horror film. It clocks in at 96 minutes long, had a budget of $60 million, but unfortunately only made $42 million at the box office, so a bit of a flop, although it eventually did kind of recoup its money in terms of rentals. And stars Lawrence Fishburne and Sam Neill, two people who are obviously in far better science fiction films from the 90s, The Matrix and Jurassic Park. And also stars Kathleen Quinlan, who was in the really rather fantastic Breakdown, also from 1997, as well as Jack Noseworthy, who was also in Breakdown from 1997, and also stars Jolie Richardson, who I've not seen much from, but I have seen 6 films with her, but I can't really remember her roles in them, so she's a little bit unremarkable in that regard, but still, I imagine she was good enough in the moment. This is about a group in 2047 of astronauts who are sent to investigate and salvage the starship Event Horizon, which disappeared mysteriously 7 years before in its maiden voyage. With its return, the crew of the Lewis and Clark discovers the real truth behind the disappearance of the Event Horizon and something even more terrifying. So, it isn't particularly original in terms of its plot. You know, a spacecraft goes missing and they've got to find people come across it, and then there's something else that's gone mysterious wrong with it, and there's something else that's going to happen rather outside of its disappearance, so a little bit iffy in that regard. I mean, you can look at the likes of Life Force from the 80s and the likes of that, but regardless of it's not being all that original, and the script is a little bit hurried along in terms of characterization and the like, there is far more to like about this than dislike, quite frankly. And those include the likes of the production, which is fantastic, especially the look of the Event Horizon itself and the interiors. I love the heavy use of practical effects, which are mixed really rather well with the CGI, which unfortunately hasn't aged particularly well, being a 25-year-old film, and given, it's now in 4K, that's not done it particularly, justice, but still, they are decent enough, especially for the time, and consider how much larger films in terms of budget were that were also science fiction from the time, and they look marginally better, but not a huge leap and bound. And it's also got a really solid cast. I really like Lawrence Fishburne and Sam Neill. I've always liked them in their films, and they work really well together here. I like the score, the action scenes are handled well, and the gory and violent imagery is truly memorable and really rather quite haunting. So it's easily one of the more violent science fiction horror films from the 90s, and in general, really, because there's not very many that I can think of that are as good as this film while being as gory and as quite as violent. So not only do you get the hard box, but you also get a really nice Steelbook, which, like Edge of Tomorrow with its box, has a plastic outer lining, so you can take it off like that, and there's this main bit of the Steelbook. So as you can see, it's got the eye, and then if you've seen the film you understand, but that's basically the machine that helps it get past the Event Horizon in terms of travelling space. It's so it can fold space, so it can just go straight through instead of going the actual distance itself. And no little spoiler there in the fact that is Sam Neill, and then the standard on the rear. And you get several art cards with this, as well as a couple of other extras, but obviously there's discs that we're mainly interested in. And there's a 4K disc at the front and the Blu-ray disc at the back. I imagine the Blu-ray disc is the same as the original Blu-ray that came out a few years ago, but the 4K itself does look really rather good, especially when it comes to showing off the interior of the Event Horizon, the cinematography, the practical effects. Like I said, the CGI doesn't age particularly well in 4K, because it wasn't particularly great even back then, but it still looks pretty damn good. And yeah, get the art cards as well. Yeah, some of these are violent and some of these are spoiler heavy, so warning. And there's one of them, which, yeah, it's quite violent. And some of these are actually behind the scenes as well, like there, you see, you got the green screen there. Then you got the 3 main cast. Then you got the whole cast. It's got a very limited cast, being, you know, just about one spaceship crew discovering the Event Horizon itself. And then you also get in this little box here, which isn't capped off at the end, you get not only a nice patch that you can stitch onto anything that you have, but you also get a really nice pin badge as well, which I'll get out of its little plastic wrapping because I hadn't got it out until now. And yeah, there you go, you can see that. Actually kind of reminds me of the Bioshock logo in some regards. And yeah, you also get a schematic of the Event Horizon itself in really rather nice blueprint paper, which genuinely looks the part. Is that, oh, no, that's upside down. And yeah, looks pretty good, to be honest. I really rather like it. Gives you a nice overview of the ship, and some of it you might not actually see in the film, but yeah, it's really nicely done and on really nice paper, and yeah, it looks like a blueprint schematic. It doesn't look like something that's just been, you know, rudimentarily made. So yeah, and even the box has the Latin that is briefly heard in an audio recording when they get on the ship and listen to an audio recording of the prior crew. They misinterpret it at one point, and that leads to the whole basis of the film. And there's another shot of the engine that is used to propel the Event Horizon. So yeah, a really rather solid film. It's not the best science fiction horror film from the 70s, or generally the best science fiction film, but I do really rather enjoy it. And even though there was a more violent, longer version out there, unfortunately those scenes got lost. The studio themselves even asked the director if he could find them, because the DVD sales were going through the roof, selling far more than it ever did at the box office, but he couldn't find them, and apparently they are lost. But if they ever find them, that's going to be like one of the best editions of a film yet. But as far as an edition of the film that we all know, or if you've seen the film anyway, then yeah, this is a pretty good one. It's got some nice extras, physical extras, the Steelbook looks good, and the 4K looks really rather great as well, as far as 25-year-old films go. But yeah, nonetheless, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.